The moment the Terran fleet translated into real space, they saw the galaxy's judgment arrayed against them. Thousands of alien warships, Eldre carriers slung like slender crescents, Thrall warbarges bristling with turreted spines, sleek, free cruisers cloaked in shimmering grav fields, hung before a monumental station ringed with glinting spires. This was the forward command post of the Galactic Council, a coalition older than human civilization itself. Today, humanity's fate will be decided in fire. On the bridge of the human dreadnought, Hammer of Earth, Admiral Sophie Martinez studied the tactical display with grim focus. Terran ships were outnumbered more than 10 to 1. The Council had expected them to cower behind their colonies. Instead, after a decade of relentless raids and blockade, humanity had come here, where the Council's fist was strongest. They had no choice. Terra was suffocating under embargo. Colonies starved. Diplomats returned in coffins. The Council had made it clear. Humans would either become obedient vassals or be culled. So humanity would show them what it meant to fight free. A flicker of static crossed the holotable. Martinez raised a hand, voice steady despite the tension straining each syllable. All ships, prepare to engage. Do not break formation. Stick to the plan. Outside the viewport, the darkness sparked with deadly intent. The Council struck first, loosing volleys of fusion lances and cobalt beams. Human destroyers huddled close to the Hammer of Earth, overlapping their shields as best they could. The initial barrage tore through a Terran frigate, Indigo Dawn, snapping it in half. The scream of the crew, cut abruptly by vacuum, echoed through Martinez's headset. She winced and forced herself to focus. Return fire! Railguns spat slugs at near light speed. Mass drivers hurled tungsten rounds that shattered alien hulls. Human laser batteries, crude but devastating at close range, chewed through Eldre fighter swarms. But it wasn't enough. For each Council frigate slain, humans lost 2 ships. The Council's lines were too disciplined, their technology too refined. The Terrans needed something more to shift the odds. As the Council pressed in, the human formation bent, luring the enemy closer. The Aeternum, a heavy cruiser lurking at the rear, carried humanity's secret weapon, the Dimensional Pulse Array. Years of desperate research had produced this device, capable of tearing open unstable fissures in spacetime. Properly unleashed, it could short out advanced shield systems and scramble hyperwave communications. It might buy humanity the window they needed. But even as the Aeternum began to charge the array, the Council sensed a trap. Their command spire broadcast curt orders, flanking maneuvers, spread formations. The Vree and Thrall ships fanned out, firing relentlessly, while Eldre squadrons cut off escape routes. Human corvettes were hammered into slag. Martinez's knuckles whitened against the railing. She had planned to use the array once the Council was fully committed, but now they had to fire early. Aeternum, we can't hold. Use the array now, Martinez said. Her voice shook, anger and desperation bleeding through. The Council had forced this battle too soon. Already, Terran casualties climbed into the thousands. Captain Ahsoka aboard the Aeternum acknowledged in clipped tones. Inside his cruiser's reinforced holds, the array's gravitational core spun up, dimensional fields rippling like heat haze. The Council caught wind too late. They tried to close in and silence the Aeternum before it fired, but human battleships formed a desperate shield line, trading their hulls for precious seconds. Then came the pulse. Space twisted, momentarily distorting starlight into spirals. Council ships shuddered as their precious shield harmonics failed. Transceivers crackled with static. Advanced guidance systems crashed. The Council fleet, so perfectly choreographed, reeled into confusion. Some captains fired wildly. Others scrambled to regroup. Now! Martinez commanded. Terran ships surged forward, emptying magazines, launching entire missile racks. Railgun slugs smashed unshielded alien hulls. Council cruisers spun apart. Eldre carriers cracked open to vacuum. Without centralized coordination, the enemy lines frayed at the edges. For a few minutes, the Terrans dared hope. But the Council would not rule the galaxy for eons by folding after one blow. They regrouped at a brutally rapid pace, linking old-fashioned laser comms between ships. The Council's sheer numbers still dwarfed humanity. Even stripped of their highest tech advantages, they pressed inward, forcing humans into close combat that favoured their size and mass. Martinez's heart pounded. The Terrans had expected more chaos, more collapse. The array had crippled the enemy's advantage but not shattered their will. Now, with the Council's leaders still alive in that armoured ring station, the aliens would rally. The Terrans needed a killing stroke. The plan had always been to isolate the Council's command spire and decapitate their leadership. Doing so might break enemy morale. Without it, the humans would never escape this slaughter. Through the Hammer of Earth's scorched viewport, Martinez spotted the monolithic ring station. It was massive, studded with batteries and hangars. Destroying it outright seemed impossible, but disabling it, cracking open its command modules, might still be within reach. "All ships, concentrate fire on the station spire," Martinez ordered. She knew they would pay dearly. Every gun turned on the station meant less fire directed at enemy fleets, but they had no choice. Human battleships heaved closer, shrugging off hits where they could, presenting their thickest armour. Railguns thundered. The spire's hull, forged from centuries-old alloys, held stubbornly. The Council realised the human goal and flung wave after wave of defenders at them. Eldre cruisers kamikazed forward, slamming into Terran lines. A Vree dreadnought spewed acid-like plasma that ate through half a human carrier's decks. The comms filled with screams, frantic last words. A pilot whispered a name, her daughter's, before her interceptor vanished in a beam of light. The Rising Star, a Terran frigate, took a direct missile barrage and exploded, venting charred body parts into the void. Martinez tasted bile. They could not retreat. Retreat meant extinction. At the Eternum, the crew tried to recharge the array for a second shot, but the system had burned out. Asako cursed under his breath. Only conventional weapons remained, but their ammunition ran low. He watched the tactical net, Terran ships blinking out one by one, dwindling red icons in a sea of hostile green. He thought of Earth, of the hungry faces in half-powered domes, of children taught that out there was a galaxy that wanted them gone. He would not let that happen. He angled the Eternum closer to the enemy station, ignoring the steady pummeling of laser fire against his hull. The Terrans poured everything into one last strike. The Hammer of Earth and her surviving escorts focused their main batteries, carving molten gashes into the spire's surface. Thick secondary walls buckled. Internal explosions fountained out as atmosphere vented. The station's lights flickered. Martinez dared hope. One more barrage. An alarm screamed. The Council had unleashed a final counterattack. From hidden recesses in the ring's structure, a torrent of nuclear torpedoes burst forth. Without their advanced guidance disrupted, they simply honed in on mass signatures. In the chaos, they struck friend and foe alike. A trio of torpedoes slammed into the Eternum. The cruiser broke in half, spewing molten metal. Captain Asako's last transmission was a wordless roar cut short by static. Another torpedo clipped the Hammer of Earth's aft section, shredding engine coils. The Terran dreadnought lost power, drifting helplessly. One human carrier, the Silver Wing, heroically positioned itself to intercept another torpedo barrage, vanishing in a radioactive flash. Still, under relentless pounding, the station spire cracked. A heavy slug from the Hammer of Earth's forward railgun, fired moments before it lost power, tore through a primary command module. The Council's high strategists, the ones who had ordered Terra's subjugation, were likely pulverized in that instant. For a heartbeat, the Council fleets faltered. But the Terrans were now barely holding together. Sensor screens showed a horror of twisted wreckage. Of the 100+ Terran ships that had started the battle, fewer than 20 still functioned. The surviving Council vessels, though leaderless, disorganized and damaged, vastly outnumbered the Terrans. They circled, blooded predators encircling a wounded prey. Fragments of the Council command net reformed as secondary officers took charge. The humans had killed the top hierarchy, but the Council was too big to simply collapse. Martinez floated in 0G as emergency gravity failed. The bridge was lit by dim red emergency lights. Sparks showered from ruptured panels. She keyed an open channel to all Terran units. Report! Voices came in patchy. The few remaining captains sounded hollow, stunned. We can't jump. Engines out. Minimal weapons. Shields failing. Admiral, what do we do? She closed her eyes. There were no reinforcements. Terra had sent its best, its only, battle-worthy fleet. If they died here, Earth would be defenseless. The Council, even wounded, had deep reserves. They would descend on human worlds with genocidal fury. Still, Martinez refused to beg. They had come too far, lost too much. They had proven humanity's strength. If this was the end, she would end it on her terms. Try to form a wedge, she said softly. We'll push through their line. If we can break out, some of us might reach FTL range. Her words wavered, neither promising victory nor salvation. Just a desperate attempt to survive a little longer. Outside, a dozen Council warships closed in. They looked ugly now, hulls scorched, half blind without their advanced sensors, but they were still lethal. Council captains, shocked by their leaders' deaths, were now guided by raw hatred. Humanity had dared strike the heart of their order. They would erase the Terrans from history. The humans tried to maneuver. Engines sputtered. The hammer of Earth barely responded, drifting toward an alien cruiser. A boarding pod slammed into its side. Human Marines prepared a last stand in the corridors. One sent a silent prayer back to Earth, apologizing he couldn't do more. They would fight anyway. Martinez watched the tactical display. She had moments, maybe minutes, before the Council ships swarmed them completely. Human survivors were too scattered and too crippled to form a cohesive defense. Her heart clenched. Even if she somehow escaped, what awaited Terra? The Council's retaliation would be merciless. In these final seconds, her mind drifted back to her homeworld, to the dry farmland where her grandparents had raised her. She imagined their hopeful faces, always encouraging her to fight for a better future. All her victories and sacrifices led here, to a death in vacuum. Admiral! Cracked a voice on the damaged comms. It was Captain Alonga of the Sunrise Blade, a battered destroyer barely holding together. We're picking up strange signals at extreme range. Martinez's eyebrows knitted. Clarify. Ships. A lot of them. Last signatures. They're closing from the galactic rim. Martinez glanced at her malfunctioning sensors, saw flickers of approaching contacts. Not human, not Council. This was something else entirely. The timing made no sense. Another fleet, even bigger than the Council's, sliding into sensor range. Who were they? Allies? Some distant species drawn by the conflict? Or scavengers smelling blood? Her stomach churned. The Council captains must have seen them too. Some started pulling back, uncertain. No one knew who these newcomers were, but their numbers were staggering. Hundreds, no, thousands of unknown drive signatures. They approached with terrifying speed. The Council and the humans, both beaten and broken, now faced an inexplicable third force. Martinez stared, hollow-eyed. She tried to hail them. Only silence. The newcomers never answered, never slowed. It was as though the galaxy itself was not done punishing humanity. As though, in this final moment of hope, having at least wounded the Council, fate had decided to crush them all beneath the heel of something far worse. She slammed a fist into the console, tears welling unbidden in her eyes. They had gambled everything for a fighting chance, and now, at the cusp of annihilation, something darker loomed. The sensors showed faint outlines, colossal wedge shapes, spherical hulls brimming with energy. Their engine signatures were unfamiliar, beyond anything recorded. The Council, for all their arrogance, had never spoken of such a power lurking in the dark. Fear shivered through her bones. A whispered murmur passed through the Terran comm channels. Some prayed, others cursed. More wept in silent despair. The Council ships hovered, tensely, no longer certain they had the upper hand. All sides confronted the unknown, blood still drifting through vacuum. Martinez forced herself to speak, voice cracking, barely audible over static. "All Terran ships, stand by!" She had no orders to give. She could only watch as the unidentified armada drifted closer, overshadowing the wreckage and the wounded. The dim starlight played across their alien silhouettes, hinting at weapon emplacements that dwarfed anything either side possessed. She tried one last time to open a channel, voice trembling. "Unidentified fleet. This is Admiral Sophie Martinez of the Terran..." No response. Only the hum of radiation surges. She looked to her crew, her survivors. Wide, terrified eyes stared back. The Council's fleets began shifting nervously, a few trying to withdraw, but it was too late. Whatever the newcomers were, they blocked all escape routes. Martinez clenched her jaw. Her people were broken, trapped between a vengeful council and these silent newcomers. Nothing remained of her grand strategy. No victory, and no future. They had tried to stand tall in a cruel galaxy, and now they dangled on the edge of oblivion. She tasted blood where she'd bitten her lip. A proximity alert wailed. The newcomers launched something, small objects accelerating toward the battlefield. Drones, missiles, boarding craft. She couldn't tell. The Council's ships fired wildly, beams lashing out to no effect. The unknown projectiles kept coming. Martinez closed her eyes. She thought of Earth, of the names and faces that formed her reason to fight. All of it fading away. They would never know what happened out here, never know that humanity tried, that they dared challenge giants and they refused to bow. Aboard the drifting hammer of Earth, sparks danced in the stale air. Wounded crew held each other's hands. The intercom crackled with someone humming a lullaby. Outside, silent juggernauts filled the stars, bringing who knew what terrible fate. Martinez opened her eyes at the last second. The Terran ships hung battered and powerless. The Council trembled in disarray, and the newcomers descended without a word. The Emerald drew a rugged breath. She had no clever gambit left, no heroic last stand. Just the darkness and that unknown menace rushing closer. She whispered into the quiet bridge, "I'm sorry." Then the lights flickered, alarm screaming anew, and everything cut to black.